I don't think it's about public versus private school. I think it's literally your family's circle.
Well, if that's the case, let's talk about family then. Let's talk about family, right? Princess, you mentioned that kind of in a way that you was kind of guided towards being a teacher because you grew up around accountants, you grew up around engineers. Is that what you said? You didn't say that?
No, I was saying that what you grow up around influences what you think you can be and what you think about being.
Okay. And not so much private school itself, but kind of just that network of what you're around. Excuse me for getting you wrong.
It's all right.
So what do you say to someone who don't grow up around that? I give you a personal experience, right? I didn't grow up around that. My father was a custodian worker, right? My mother didn't work the whole time while I growing up and while she was alive. And I was sharing this with Chen, that a lot of things or a lot of new experience that I experienced in my life, he was kind of the, the vehicle to showing me how to get to these things and what to inspire more than to be. Now, granted, because my father was a custodian worker, that doesn't mean that I was going to be a janitor or anything like that, because I grew up in church as well. So, like, I cherished church. I wanted to just play music in church. But it wasn't until I was around someone who mother was a doctor or who uncles and aunties and stuff like that was these
investment bankers,
exactly, accountants and things that you're just like, whoa, how do you become that? As a teacher, teaching in a public school, how do you inspire or try to give that type of vision to a kid? Because you said you asked a kid, what do you want to be when they grow up? But what if they don't have the personal experience or the personal network that a private school kid may have? Dude, like, you get what I'm saying? So how do you become that vehicle or provide that vehicle for that child who probably don't know how to think more higher than a policeman, a fireman, a doctor? And those are great things. I'm not saying those are... But I'm saying those are the common things that you said. Like, you don't... It's very hard to... like, for example, my sister wanted to be a mortician.
Okay.
She went...
You know why?
I tell you why. She went to a funeral and in our old church in Jersey City, and she remembered the people at the funeral home was so nice in how they... I don't want to say presenting the body because that seemed kind of strange, but she met one. She saw someone in where we grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, like in a rough part. It's rather drugs or it's not mortician. You get what I'm saying? Usually end up there. You get what I'm saying? So I guess my question to make a long question longer, how do you provide that vehicle when those things are not attributed to your zone school kids and so forth?
So, like I said, I really think it's all about the community and the network. So, like, it wasn't it was people that I saw. So the aunts and uncles that I would see, I'm like, oh, I remember there was this one, and she was the aunt, I guess, that seemed the coolest, like, and she seemed the youngest.
Okay.
And she seemed the hippest, I guess. Like, she was always happy, and she dressed nicely, and she was always smiling. And I was like, oh, what did she do? Okay, I'm gonna do that. So it wasn't even about it wasn't. I mean, I went to public school, but yeah. So it's who you spend time around. Even like sometimes it might be your parents' friends. Mm-hmm. So
that's a fact.
I think, and like you said, like it was your friend's parent. That's what I meant. But okay. I think it's hard, right? Because schools try to expose children to other careers that they might not be aware of. I try to expose children. Like, I do this thing and I try to show them different videos and things like, okay, this is this career, this is this career, this is this career, just so that they can be more aware of it. And you know what I realized? It's good, and it does put certain things in their mind that they might not have known about before, but it really is missing something. Even career days, schools, that's their attempt at it. Even career, that's what, when they have a career day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people can learn about different careers. And again, you're going to see careers from within that community. And I guess what's missing is the connection. Your sister felt a connection to someone who worked at the morgue, which is why she desired to be a mortician. You know what I'm saying? I felt a connection to that aunt which is why at the time, so she was a pharmacist at the time. I wanted to be a pharmacist. Other people, like, that's normally how it goes. Oh my gosh, like I remember I was talking to this one guy and he was saying he wanted to be a dentist because he knew someone who was a dentist and he loved their lifestyle. He said that was the only person he knew who made money and wasn't always working. And guess what he did? He became a dentist. So I hate to say this. I think that schools can try their best to expose kids to these careers, but until they make connections, like real connections, I'm not talking about, like, you're not going to make a connection in one day. You can, but you are not, it's not that likely. You can try your best, but
you kind of discouraging me. It kind of, or maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. It kind of sounds like magic. Like, it almost just sound like you basically just saying
it's the luck of the draw.
It just sounds like it just happens, and I'm just like, if there's something that we can do, something that we can put our hands on, that's like, okay, we can do this to get you here.
Okay, so you know what? Let me backtrack.
Okay, I'm sorry.
In my school, we do have, and in schools I've worked in, there have been many programs, not only after school programs, but even during school. We have programs. I know, like, our social worker, she does different groups with kids, and they have people come in. And so that's another type of recurring exposure. But I think the key is recurring exposure to people who have different types of careers. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think learning about it or hearing about it one time is going to... I mean, for some people, it might. But I think most people, not only kids, but also even teenagers, they need that recurring exposure. And also, I think representation matters a lot. So I think they need to be able to see themselves in it.
And also the opportunity, right? It's like,
yeah,
if you only do it once out of the year versus doing several times out of the year versus doing every week, you might touch that one kid, and that one kid might be your sister that one time, and she might see herself as that one profession. Versus if you only do it once a year, the kid, everything has to be in line for all the kids, let alone several kids, let alone one kid, to actually feel a connection towards a certain profession. So I think it's like, maybe have it, and then I guess my question to you is, like, people who are in these, like, I guess tech fields or medical fields, or should they be doing more to come back to the schools and inspire kids? And if not, how should, like, those people go about inspiring the new generation, especially those that do not have these role models in their lives or people in their circles?
So if it's going to be one of those things where it's like high touch, aka recurring, then I definitely think they could and they should. But then again, like, I'm going to be realistic. I'm thinking of people who I have friends who are physicians. They work a lot of hours. And if you have a family, then where are you going to find the time? But if you do have the time, I do think you should definitely try, if it's going to be, like I said, high touch. So it's not just going to be a one-time thing. Yeah. What I do believe, and I know people might not agree with me, I think TV is probably the best avenue to try and reach kids. I think if we had more TV shows, and it's not just Black and low income, like also Hispanic, Asian, Asian, Indigenous, anything, right? Anybody who's not well represented in any field, I think seeing themselves in those types of TV characters and movie characters, like on an ongoing basis, I think that would make a bigger difference. Because, I mean, a lot of kids emulate what they see. Most people emulate what they see, period. Even though they don't like to acknowledge it. But kids especially do. And so if a kid sees somebody that they're like, oh my gosh, I love Judge Banks from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I want to be a judge when I get older. They're seeing it all the time. They like how, I don't know, that he had a big house. I don't know. But I think that would actually be way more effective, if I'm being honest.
It's funny because I just talked to Chen about this past week. Chen's house was the first house I saw that I was like, this is a mansion. Like, granted.
Huge house.
His house.
That's not my house.
Sorry, your mother's house.
His mother's house is not a mansion, though. But when I saw it, I was like, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. now when I go in, I'm like, y'all need to add like another floor or something like that. But it's just coming from that, one of my role models. Well, one of my only role models. I don't really have a lot of role models, but one of my only role models is my big brother, right? And my big brother probably came from tougher circumstances than I did, because my family is from Utah, Alabama, EUTAW, country, right? So there's not a lot of opportunities in that part of Alabama. it looks the same as it did 20 years ago. It's just what it is. So I guess his battle cry or his drive to be the guy that he is today, the successful guy that he is today, was basically, I'm not going back. I'm not going. Basically, it's like a and this is not to him. I see it more in other people. It's almost like a unhealthy obsession with like, I'm not going to end up like what I grew up.
I've seen that.
Or like, I'm not going back. I'm not going to end up like my parents. I'm not going to end up like my grandparents.
Did he leave Utah?
Of course.
I lived in the rural South for a bit, and I definitely saw that.
And the thing about those parts is that if you grew up in those parts, it's rather two things: you never leave, or you never come back.
Yep,
it's two extremes. Yeah. There's people who lived in that part, never been on a plane, never done anything more than a bus. You get what I'm saying? So their view of the world, based on the circumstance that they grew in or was born in, was very closed and things like that. So that's why I can say there's an unhealthy obsession with I don't want to say obsessed, but like, because you know how it was of how you was born and what you was born in, and you basically seen your parents struggle. It's like, I'm not going to be that. And I think I'm the baby of the family. I'm the third born. I have an older sister and like older brother. Because I seen my father work 2 jobs back to back, it's like, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. It never crossed my mind to try to be an entrepreneur. Never crossed my mind. Like, cause I was like, my father pays for the house. He pays for his car. He pays for his cowboy boots whenever he want to get cowboy boots. He got these suits. You know what I'm saying? My father was a very low maintenance guy. You get what I'm saying? Like, he basically like laid back. Like, I got my house because he grew up. Granted, it's funny how everybody's perspective on life is different. The reason why his dream was to buy a house, that was his dream, because he grew up in a house full of 11 brothers and sisters. So he never had like his own privacy. So for him to get his house, it was like a dream accomplished. But just to show what type of circumstance that we grew up from, in order for him to get that house, it had to come from the money of my mother's death. Do you get what I'm saying? So that kind of gives an idea of the type of bracket that my father was growing up in. So it's like, I didn't really know how to aspire more than a church boy that played drums in church, piano. Like I said, I'm very interested, and maybe I always criticize social media a lot, but maybe like this is a plus for social media, because I can see more and I can like be like, oh, there's people out here wanting to be a YouTuber making millions of dollars and stuff like that. It's like, whoa, I didn't know that. So because I seen that, and now everybody's catching the entrepreneur bug and stuff like that, I'm like, I think I want to do that, because that would be the vehicle to get me to this certain lifestyle that would be completely opposite of what my parents had to do. Now, granted, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate what they did, but they had to do what they had to do for their time. So it's like, I find it very disheartening when you could just say, hey, you go to these public school kids, tell them to build a network, but it's like, they only can build what they're around. They around zone school, that is. I'm not gonna talk about magnet schools, but zone schools is not the suburbs. You get what I'm saying? Most of the time. So it's like, it has to be another way besides just like career day or just like talking about it and things like that. I don't know.
Social media is helping. It is helping.
Okay.
There are campaigns and things online. Like, I know that there are different pages, and I think they're probably just pages. I used to see it on Instagram when I used to use it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on TikTok too, but like they would have pages where they would just highlight Black physicians or accountants and lawyers and just, journalists, all types of things. Honestly, probably every career field. And I'm sure they do it for other people. I guess I probably see the Black more because the algorithms, and I'm a Black person.
Yeah, mine is Black too.
So, but I'm sure is helping.
Yeah.
And so social media definitely is helping in that way. The downside to that is you kind of see what you look at, right? So if you're not looking at that type of things, like hashtag Black Excellence, you might not see it in your feed, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
If it'll probably be in your Explore page, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So if you see it enough, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to live just like that person. What did they do? Oh my gosh, they are a professor at a university and they have tenure. Okay, I want to do that. How do I do that?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's hard to really, like, because, yes, connection helps. But if you really don't know what you want to do, you still don't, it doesn't matter how many connections you have.
You want to know how to use them?
I mean, you have no reason to use them because you don't know what you want to do, right? So it helps, right? Because you do have more opportunities to explore different things. So you have this idea and this idea. But I have people that went to college and they didn't know what they wanted to do, or they just jumped into a career because it's like, I have no. And then they end up graduating with like no, they don't want to work.
They basically just finished school.
I have a friend who's a pharmacist who got the degree for pharmacy, all that. Don't want to do pharmacy. Spend all that money, going through college and time, and don't want to do pharmacy. So yes, I do think connection plays a role, but I think also like, and this is a bigger problem outside of just education, but there's this, I guess, lack of developing kids into knowing themselves, where a lot of kids, even people who went to private school or who did well in public school, went to a great resourced, public school that have many resources. When they go to college, they're finding themselves in college. And maybe that's just the age you do it, but I'm like, maybe we give kids more resources during their schooling to really explore themselves outside just math and physics and, all the different things that we try to teach them.
I think there are a lot. I think there are way too many responsibilities put on the school system, and I don't think that they should be there. I think that schools can definitely help with so many of these things, but they simply can't do everything.
Yeah.
There's not enough time in the day. But to your point, I do believe that that's why, it's so important to have clubs and activities and, before school clubs, after school clubs, summer camps, free camps, like any, you know what I'm saying? All those types of things. I think all of those are important because through kids doing those, they'll know which ones they like and which ones they don't. And as they get older, they'll start to have more of an idea of what they would like to do. So I think that's the biggest thing that can be done in terms of that. But I also, and this is something I've been saying for years, especially for people who don't have the privilege of just, I guess, time and money maybe.
Yeah.
If you need to take a year to try something out, I think that's a way better investment than going to school first, getting the degree, and then working in the field to find out you hate it.
Yeah.
A year is a long time. I would say a month. Even if you just shadow someone. If your friend had shadowed a pharmacist for a month, they would know that they hate it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know people in every field who probably hate their job. And I know people in every field who probably love their job, right? But I honestly think that if you shadow, you will know if you're going to like it or not.
I think you hit the nail on the head in the first part where you said, I asked, do you have to love being a teacher or something across the lines? And you said, well, you just don't have to hate it. And I love that Chen makes a joke every night. I think I called him a couple weeks ago and I said, he asked me how was I doing. I'm like, I'm happy. He was like, I never heard you say happy. You know what I mean? Because I fly in the middle, like never get too high, never get too low. Because I'm like, happiness to me is a high. It's not something that I just stay in and stuff like that. I'd rather stay here. But in your field, and sadly, even in the medical field, this is a field that's something as outrageous. Well, not outrageous. Outrageous is a totally wrong word. Something as an outbreak of let's say a sickness going around and things like that cause people to question, like, do I really want to do this? Because it's hard, How do you stay in that middle ground as a teacher? Because teaching now, during this COVID thing, did you have to switch to virtual at any point or anything like that?
Sure did.
Did you find it any hard? or did you find it easier? Did you find it any type of hindrance to like reaching out to your kids, getting them to learn, or was there any hindrance at all by this virus? Anything?
It was definitely a learning curve. I had to. So I guess the benefit is that I actually taught for that summer. So we went virtual in March of whatever.
Yeah.
We started distance learning. That was hard. Then I taught virtually. I taught coding. That was the first summer I taught coding.
Okay.
And I taught at a private school, but it was virtual because of the pandemic. I learned so much that when we came back in the fall, I was able to implement things. I was like, oh, kids are leaving because they don't want to answer questions or they don't want to do certain activities. Okay, think about what type of virtual accountability that's going to look like. Or how can I make them more engaged to want to stay? And so I had to figure those things out, and I did. So it was definitely a challenge. Loved it so much. Definitely would go back. Want to go back. My kids learned so much. My kids learned so much.
And
wait, so sorry.
No, go ahead, Chen.
So what was those things that you learned during that time? Like
when I worked at the private school?
Yeah.
That kids literally will sign out when they don't want to do stuff.
And was it because it was a private school that you learned that, or was it like just the fact that you had that time?
Oh, so I with that part, you asked me, was it a challenge? And I was saying it was a challenge, but because I had that experience
already,
it helped me learn some things. So I knew I know what I need to learn for myself and figure out for myself for my classroom this fall because I had that experience. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
And maybe my question or maybe the discussion I want to have is because you sound like one of the most optimistic teachers I've ever met and things like that. I know teachers that are, now granted, they taught, they much older, so they probably burnt out and things like that. But it's like, we're seeing teachers leave the field. We're seeing nurses leave the field and things like that. These are the foundational pieces to our society.
Yeah.
How do we continue to build upon a strong society, at least a smart society with teachers, if teachers are leaving the field? Is it something as simple as, we need to pay y'all more? Is it something that materialistic? And there's nothing wrong with it being materialistic. You need money to live. But what can we do, or what can the school system do? What can the education system do to not only bring new people in, but keep the people that they have? So, again, how I feel is not how most teachers feel. I know this because I've talked to them. I personally don't think if I had a desire to leave the field, it would not be because of pay. A pay increase would not keep me in the field if I wanted to leave. If I wanted to leave, because there have been times where I thought about it because it is very challenging. Even though I like what I do, it is very challenging. But the biggest thing to me, I think the most hurtful thing to me about being an educator is that we are not treated as professionals. And that's so disheartening. Like, most of us have our master's degrees. We are professionals. We have professional knowledge. We should be respected as professionals, but we're not. And we're not anybody and everybody. Not only people who we work with. Yeah. And when I say that, I don't mean our colleagues. I mean like school board members and other people, other stakeholders who have influence on our role. But then also outsiders. Let's be real. And to me, especially going through this entire thing with the sickness, I realized that people do not care. I'll give an example. There was in a school district that I know of, there was a survey that went out to teachers, and it basically asked, how comfortable do you feel returning? This was still when cases were very high. Okay. How comfortable do you feel returning to the classroom in person? This is when we were virtual, and the data showed that most of the educators said they did not feel comfortable. Like a week or two later, that same school district forces them to return. And so it's like, first of all, if you already weren't going to do what you asked about, why did you ask people? Why? But not just that, those types of things happen often where educators are not listened to. They are not considered, not thought of. It's always money or what the parents want. That's really what it is. It sounds like the kids is not the reason why people are leaving these fields as much as the higher ups. I think it's part. So I think it's different things.
I, as an educator, don't like to feel like my voice doesn't matter. I don't like not being considered, right? I don't like when decisions are made because of parents. Teachers are never considered. It's always like, what's best for students, and then what do parents want?
The student is always right, basically.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's bad because it's school, right? It's for students to learn. I don't think parents should have as much power as they do. I don't. At all.
And you think that power should shift towards the teachers?
I'm not even saying that.
Over their kids? They shouldn't have as much power over their kids? Or over...
No, they should have power over their kids, but they shouldn't have all the power in terms of what happens in a school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like something as small, for example, with the whole pandemic, right? Most of the school districts that either stayed in person or were forced back in person before, I guess health officials deemed it safe. It was because the parents wanted it to happen.
Because the parents don't want the parents tired of Johnny being in the house.
Right. So it's like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, that's not even for the kid's best interest. That was literally for the benefit of the parent, and I don't think that should be a factor.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you feel like people see you guys as essential workers?
I think many people see
or unskilled
educators
job
as babysitters. I never believed that. I know people used to say that. I used to hear it all the time, but I never believed that people truly felt that way until recently. And now I'm like, okay, I can see why you say that.
It's so crazy because as much as we, and when I say we, I'm not talking about us specifically, but as much as we talk bad about cops, we talk, firemen never get any flack. We love firemen. We like...
Yeah, there was a funeral the other day.
The whole city.
I was caught in the traffic. I was caught in the traffic.
Me too.
I was caught in the traffic.
So, I had my bike though. I had my bike though. So I was.
So we respect medics. How?
I feel there's a fake respect for teachers though.
I feel like there's.
It's like soldiers.
I was going to say, whoa.
No, it is. Everybody's like, yeah, love the truth. But when it comes to the vets, nobody does anything to help the veterans. And it's the same thing with teachers. Like everybody say, the teachers need to get paid more. The teachers need to get paid more. The teachers need to get paid more. Raise taxes. Whoa. Or it's like, what about the teachers? What about the teachers? Well, COVID's still going on. Yeah, but the kids, what about the kids? What about the kids? And so it's like every time people say, I think there's a cry for helping teachers, but I don't think the respect is really there.
But the thing that's so interesting about it is there wouldn't be a fireman without the teacher. There wouldn't be a policeman without the teacher. Or at least instruct. Okay, Chen. Okay. I'll just say.
Won't be a fireman without the teacher. What I mean,
they had to get through elementary school, middle school.
I would say that counts more for jobs like there wouldn't be a president without the teacher. There wouldn't be a dentist without the teacher. There wouldn't be a doctor. There wouldn't be a lawyer. There wouldn't be an accountant. Maybe not so much some of the...
the hands-on jobs.
Yeah.
Somebody got to teach. Somebody got to teach the firemen.
The other firemen.
Okay.
This is how we roll down the pole. This right here is the foes.
But it's crazy how I never... Chen said sometimes it's not that you're trying not to think about it. Sometimes you hear somebody say it or like you see somebody doing it and it just clicks. And you saying that you don't think that teachers are viewed as professionals. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like any other profession that is so essential to society, we upheld and make sure. Listen, police, not all policemen, I'm going to make that specific. Policemen been shooting black kids, black people in the street, and they got a race. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just... But with teachers, it's like... It never clicked until you said, like, oh, y'all are, like, top 3, maybe top 2, not 2, essential to, like, our society. And it's like, why don't we uphold y'all? Like, how about this? Is it a certain rank, and I know I'm every, is it a certain rank and tier when it comes to teachers? Because I feel like people respect professors more than they respect Chen teaching those middle school kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it really varies. Within some schools and school districts, yes. I believe that Baltimore City has a program, and this is actually a really great program. I believe they have it
where the whole goal is to retain good teachers. Because a lot of good teachers, they're like, well, I want to make more money. I'm going to go into admin or some type of leadership in education. But they have a program where you can be a teacher and you have to have taught a few years and have, certain marks. So been deemed, I don't know, maybe highly effective or something. I really don't know the details, but then you're considered a master teacher and you get paid a lot more. So some places have that, some places don't.
Do master teachers teach in public schools? Or? Okay.
Yeah, and then I guess if you consider tenure a higher level, I don't know. But the master teacher thing in like Baltimore City, I've heard of places doing things like that. That's the only time I've heard of different ranks when it comes to teaching. And I know some school districts have something like that.
So you talk about, different levels. Because I know as an engineer, there's different levels as an engineer. You have junior engineer, regular engineer, senior engineer, principal engineer, staff engineer. You have all these different levels, which kind of inspires you to work a little bit harder to get to that next level. I also wonder, is there, because you guys are teaching, and there are all these like new ways to teach, and the famous one is the math one, where everybody's like,
Common Core?
Yeah, it's like, math ain't math no more. You just do 2 plus 3 and all that stuff. Is there, one, are they bringing a lot of these good teachers in to get their advice as to what worked? And maybe they are. But two, like, what might work in California might not work in, Utah, Alabama. So are they empowering a lot of these teachers to teach the new set of teachers? Because like what we were saying, like the fireman teaches the firemen how to work the equipment in their firehouse. They're not like, oh, this is the standard across all. It's like, this is how we work here. Are they doing the same thing for teachers? Like, are older teachers mentoring younger teachers when they come into the school system?
I would say there's a lot of places that have mentorship programs for teachers. I don't really know the specifics or the details.
Have you ever gone through it?
Have I ever had a real mentor?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've been assigned mentor teachers. I don't really remember too much about any of it, to be honest. I would say, just like I said before, like with the new, like with Common Core, I know people talk about Common Core math a lot. You just brought it up.
Yeah.
I mean, so I remember I worked at a charter school at one point in time. And I think I grew the most as an educator there because we hired the best, the most expensive, but the best coaches or facilitators, consultants. They were consultants, actually, to teach us how to teach certain things. And like even like, some of the math things. So, and they were all former teachers. And now they're consultants. But, so I would say, I guess, yes. I guess is the answer to that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard with teaching because with teaching, you're in a classroom all day, every day.
Yeah.
So to have a teacher doing that, it would either be maybe they're not going to be in the classroom, or it would be in the evenings or on the weekends or something. So it's just hard because there's just no flexibility with teaching. Whereas most jobs, it's like you can schedule times to do these things. Like you can probably schedule time to teach the younger, I guess, the lower level, the upcoming level.
But I would think like you would just have a teacher, an assistant teacher in the same classroom, and then for like a year, and then allow them to. You seem like you against that.
No. I am very much for
these
assistant
public schools
teachers.
Fully staffed.
That's what I'm saying. That's what the face was. Too. I was like, assistant teacher.
I'm about to say,
where did you do that?
We don't got those type of funds.
I mean, listen. I don't know.
If you want your gym teacher teaching you algebra, then like, of course, you have all the assistant teachers. But do you personally, Princess, do you aspire to be more than a teacher, meaning like go up into maybe in like an administrative role within your career?
I ask myself that every day.
And the reason why I ask that is sometimes it's just good to be here, because too low, you're not really respected. Too high, you kind of deal with different, I guess they say different levels, different devils. And you're just like, this not even the job. Like, this is a total different level. So I'm like, is it the same kind of in teaching as well? Like, once you get to administrative, it's not even the teachers. It's not even the students that's the problem anymore. Now,
now
like, you're dealing with
the teachers,
grown adults who are like,
educators.
yeah.
the maintenance staff.
So will we be saying principal princess or school district leader? I don't know the
superintendent,
superintendent princess.
Superintendent.
Or is your passion just like, I just love to be in the trenches. I love to see the effects of what I do hands on.
I literally ask myself that all the time. I honestly don't know. Some days I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna, work my way into a leadership role.
Yeah.
Other days I'm like, nah, I like being in the classroom. So I don't know. Change my mind every day. I haven't made a conclusive decision, and it's not something I think about that often. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if or when the time comes, I'll make a decision about it. But if not, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing.
I think that's rare in our generation, and maybe the generation after us, Chen, that someone can be like, I'm satisfied. Because we always have these goals or we see these posts and stuff like that tell us, like, shoot for the moon or shoot for the stars and then you land on the moon or something like that. They're basically like, to obtain more, basically something that we were talking about, the 80-20 thing in the previous episodes, to where it's like, okay, now you become this, and now you want to become that. You want to become this, and you end up shape shifting so much that you don't even recognize, like, why you even got into it in the first place. And you end up like, yeah.
I want to say that's our problem. Probably our parents. Our parents were like that. But I think a lot of people are, like Princess says, having a really hard look as to like, do I want to go into that level?
Okay.
What are those struggles that come with that level? There's a guy who's kind of like a mentor to me. He's like 4 or 5 years older than me, so he's like done what I've done 5 years younger. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was like, you don't want to ever become like a senior engineer, or not a senior engineer, a CTO, or go into managing, because I always thought that was a logical step. Mm-hmm. He was like, no, why would I want to manage people?
More money.
And so and this is why tech is such a different field from other places, because there's so many different avenues you could go through. You could stay, and I mean, teaching is kind of the same way, but it's like you could stay as an engineer and be very, wellly paid as an engineer. So like I said, you have engineer, then you have staff engineer, principal engineer, and even architectural engineer, where you're looking at all the different pieces and you're not really doing the coding, but you kind of doing still the problem solving. Then you have manager, you have, senior manager. You get more into the product and talking to the, different people across teams and really making sure everybody, but you're not doing coding, still problem solving, but it's more people than that. And I don't see that in other careers, but I think people who don't have that, they're not like, I'm going to just climb the ladder. Either I'm going to try this, do this, just this, and figure out how to make more money some other way, or, I just go into a different field. But then if they don't like it, I think people are reflecting more, especially with this whole, like, mental health and really taking other parts of your life, not just your career, not just your money life, but all, make sure you're healthy physically and mentally, and really taking that into account before going to the next step in their career or job. So I don't know if that's our problem, but I think that is a big problem in society, and I think that's lingering from older generations.
I think my sister and I actually have that conversation a lot, and I think it is... I think it's kind of like a mix. I think that there are people in our generation who are starting to move towards what you just talked about, but I also think that I do think the majority of people are like, go, go, go. I'm going to try to get to the highest level possible. And where I saw it a lot, I saw it a lot, especially with people whose parents would put ideas in their heads about what they should do.
I was just about to say that.
It makes me, I'm not going to lie, it makes me actually pretty sad, because I have seen a lot of people do a lot of great and amazingly successful things, and they are very sad doing those things. And I tell my sister all the time, like, because I thought about it one day and I was like, what is going on? And I realized, like, sometimes people will have a goal, and all they do is they see the goal, and they are just knocking everything out of the way, getting away every obstacle, anything they need to do to reach that goal, without even ever stopping to evaluate, like you just talked about, is this a goal I even still want? With every life change, with every year we get older, with every bit of new knowledge and experience we have, is this a goal I still want? Right? But people aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about, I just got to accomplish this goal. And I think that if people did a lot more, in terms of taking a step back and being more reflective, taking that time, to introspect and be like, okay, is this something I still want? And reevaluating every few months. Is this a goal I still want, or have my goals changed? Because goals do change. And what we want out of life changes, like in the movie Up, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's... movie.
You're talking about the
balloon, the old man with the balloon, yeah.
He was the one who died, right?
Yeah.
And his goal at first, he died in the first few minutes, right? Or something like that.
He died.
I thought his wife died.
Somebody, I can't remember who died.
His wife died, and he was...
All I know is that it was sad.
Somebody died, and I remember their first goal was something like travel the world or do something like that.
With his wife, she passed away, and then he was all sad.
He was sad, but then he realized that the goal actually was something about like family or something like the point was the goal had changed from what they originally thought. And I think if people allow their goals to change, I do think they might feel more content and more fulfilled instead of just, yes, it's good to accomplish those things. And you can be successful, but you don't want to be successful and feel empty or unfulfilled or just generally unhappy with whatever it is that you've, I guess, done or are doing every day for most of your waking hours.
Do you think, and I'm always weird, I always feel weird about asking this because it's like you mentioned earlier, you put too much on the school system. But do you think having some programs where we learn these soft skills, like goal setting and how to be flexible with goal setting? I understand most human beings are terrible at it. And people say with finances, we should be teaching kids how to file taxes and all that stuff. I get it. But I feel like understanding self is something that a lot of people don't start to learn how to do until they're 25, 26, 29, 35.
And some people never learn.
I think there are programs like that already, but it's called sports. If you play sport and if you was good at it in high school or and things like that, but the only reason why I say there's a divide with that is because the only one that really benefits from the goal setting and setting a goal and setting a mark are the ones that's actually go like get a scholarship into like college and stuff for it.
But a lot of those people don't know self, because if they lose that if they get injured and they lose their only identity, that's not self. Because their identity is too tied into one thing, and they're not flexible.
But that's anybody though, because
no, it's not.
The reason why I say it's anybody is because before both my parents passed away, I was a son. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer or never will be a son to anybody no more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of me or that identity of me died when my dad died. You get what I'm saying? So there's going to be different parts or different things that you go through in life that you're going to have to rediscover anyway. It's not so much that you just focus on one thing and then once that one thing is gone, you're going to have to rediscover yourself even if you still have that thing.
But sports don't do that for you.
Depending.
I don't know if sports would be it. And I don't even think it should be a program. I think it should honestly be maybe every semester have some professionals come in and just do a full day of reflection. Even more than goal setting. I think reflection is way more important than goal setting. And literally just walk everybody through the process of reflecting on, honestly, probably every area of their life. I think once a semester, every grade from kindergarten literally through college. I think that would actually be very effective. Because I think if they
you probably go see that now because since mental health is a major staple point. But it's going to be, I don't think you're going to see it implemented in schools. I think that's going to be something that's going to be taught.
Schools teach, we definitely teach a lot of things.
Talk about going from kindergarten all the way to...
Well, no, I was just saying reflection because y'all were talking about goals. I think that reflection is a lot more important because if you're going to be a reflective person, you're going to be able to set goals. Like reflection is way harder. Yeah. But yeah, I think that would actually be effective, and it wouldn't have to take a lot of time or cost money. Honestly, they could probably do a quick training and teach some teachers, and the teacher could just do it with their own class, right? Like I try to do reflection things with my class. I read a lot of stuff, but it's only my kids. You know what I'm saying? So but I think if people are getting it every single year, it will start to become a habit. By year 4, it's going to be a habit. Yeah. Anybody, no matter when they start, and even if they start in 3rd grade, by 7th grade, it'll be a habit for them. I believe.
No, that's a good point. Because you saying that right now, I remember once we had a conversation, which kind of like...
We had a conversation?
Me and you. we kind of changed my idea around emotions, right? 'Cause I've always been like, emotions are pointless. You need to get rid of them. They make you illogical. But I remember once we was having a conversation and you said, every time I feel something, I try to name it. I try to give a name to whatever feeling I'm having. I was like, that's so interesting. And it's like, because sometimes you move around. No, it was interesting because I'm like, get out here. What are you doing here? like I don't know what's going on. But what ends up happening is you don't know why you're doing certain things because you feel a certain type of way. And if you start giving name to certain things, you understand as soon as you start to do something, it's like, oh, I'm angry right now. Let me take some time out before I blow up on this person. Or it's like, damn, I start tearing up. It's like some people start crying out of nowhere. And you're like, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Versus you telling yourself, oh, I'm sad right now.
Yeah.
You understand that you might need to take some time to take, So I think, and so to tie that back into what you just said, having those reflections not only makes you able to make sure your goals are aligned, but just to know where you are as a person and what you need to do to work on. Like, cause it might not be, career wise. It might be being a better son or being a better father or being a better, a better person, period. Yeah. I remember once, and I'm gonna wrap this up here, but I remember once my sister in fourth grade, it was, maybe I shouldn't put her name out there. I'm not going to say which sister. But one of my sisters, I got 4, 2 half, 2 whole. One of my sisters, I remember it was around middle school. She said that she just sat in her room and she said, I'm a bully. Why am I like this?
Good for her.
I don't like myself. And she said ever since that day, she tried actively to work on.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is literally,
and you know what? It did it.
So
this is going to even make it, put the cherry on everything you were just saying. She learned to think like that because of TV. Because she used to watch so much TV. So she saw all these TV shows, and the bully is always the bad character in TV shows. And she identified her as the villain in her life. And so it was like, I think having those reflections definitely does more than just make sure you're on the right path, but just make sure you are good in every area of your life.
Yes, it's so important. I try to walk my students through reflections all the time about everything, whether it's, okay, how'd you do in that assignment? How do you feel about how you did? What did you do to get to, to do that however you performed? And then also, like there was something that happened in our class the other day. I asked the people who were involved and who weren't involved, how do you feel about what happened? How do you feel about how you made other people feel? How do you feel about how you reacted to it? Like, okay, do you want to be the type of person who X, Y, Z? And like, I have students who are like, you know what? I realize that I don't want to be that type of person.
That's
and
true.
I realize I blame other people for things. And I honestly tell them, I'm like, y'all are kids. If you realize something like that and you need help with it, literally write me a note. And I will try my best to help you with whatever that thing is.
Chen opened my eyes to that in the sense of when he was teaching these kids, he was like, man, these kids are strong. These kids are dealing with some things that like adults probably couldn't deal with. So like just when you just explain what you explained, I had to rewire myself into thinking maybe that's just me. Maybe that's too much for kids. You get what I'm saying? Like reflection and having these deep conversations. Because to me, it just seems deep. You know what I mean? But I'm like, oh no, these kids can take that. These kids can understand or at least know when something is not the norm. When they don't feel themselves or when they feel like they acting abnormal to how they normally act. Like, okay, I'm being a bully. And more times than not, based on what I've seen in my schooling experience, it's not a lot of teachers like Princess that I've seen that will pull you aside and actually talk you through it. Yeah. It's more of stop acting that way, go to the principal office. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Or get out of my classroom.
But I do both.
But I take the compliment back. But I think it's, truth be told, everybody's just trying to save their sanity. Yeah. The teacher's kicking the kid out because it's like, I have to worry about the 99 and leave the 1 because it's like, I can't let you.
I can't do that.
What you do? What?
I always was looking at the one that I kicked out. I didn't even kick them out. I was just like try to handle him, and then I lose the 99.
But I don't think the thing is I honestly don't think that it's bad. Like if I have a student and they're just having a hard time and they might be doing whatever, I'm like, you know what? You need a break. Take 2 minutes. And if that means, like, I sometimes I'll say, go take 2 minutes and calm down in the hallway. And I'll be out there in 3 minutes. Right? Like, I don't think that, it's not a bad thing. People think that, you know, kicking somebody out or making somebody leave the room is like a punishment. Nah, sometimes kids literally, they need that time. Like, sometimes when you're having a bad day or a hard time, don't you just need to like step away from everybody and everything? Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Like, sometimes it can be a punishment, but normally I'm like, go get yourself together and then we're going to talk, right? But right now, you don't even want to hear from me. You need to get yourself together, right? Before you're even going to be able to hear anything I'm trying to say to you. So I'm like, yeah, go take 2 minutes. That way you can come back and be ready to learn. Because what I don't want is for you to be upset for the rest of the day and now we just wasted a whole day. No, take 2 minutes that you need. Then I'm going to try and add whatever I can. And then we can move forward.
Do you have anything else you want to share about teaching, your passion with teaching, teachers, kids, the education system that you would like to get out? A call for teachers or are they hiring or... You know, is there anything you want to share?
Yes, I would say probably every school district across the country is probably hiring. I think that you should become a teacher if you have even an inkling of a desire to do it. Don't believe the lies, okay? Teacher pay is not as bad as they say. If you ask somebody who you know who's a teacher, and then however long they've been teaching, and then find somebody else who graduated from your college. Find like 4 people. And if you're really bold and you're really close, ask them how much they all make. I promise the teacher is not going to be the lowest.
But I want to know about it.
What's the range?
Oh, it varies so much.
In Baltimore. Yeah.
So, let me see. I believe in Baltimore City.
Okay.
It probably starts around $45,000 or $50,000. I believe. And I believe it increases relatively quickly. Like, people on year 5 or 10 might be at $60K or something.
That's not bad because they're paying for your health and all types of stuff.
Yeah, and you get summers off.
Yeah.
People might say, I'm going to get summers off because I'm working the whole time. Sorry, sis. I get summers off. But yeah, it's please don't believe the hype. Teaching is hard, but you do get summers off. Pay is not as bad as people say. Honestly, like, I think about what my friends make in their fields. I have a lot of friends who are professionals. Sometimes we talk about salary. We make the same amount. Like, sometimes teachers make more. But I'm gonna just leave it at that. So please don't believe the hype. It's the lies. I'm gonna call them lies. They're the lies.
We're not gonna believe the lies. Please, let's get some more teachers, some black teachers.
Black
definitely.
and brown teachers, please come. The kids want to see you. The kids love you, and there have been studies that shown that kids of all races benefit from black and brown educators. Yes, benefit more. Yes,
that's lit.
I agree.
That's lit.
So,
do you have anything you want to say, Chen?
Yeah. So, we've been talking about teachers. Not having the skills to teach. Are you willing to teach anybody for a little coin?
Am I hearing a business idea?
You said there was teacher consultants.
So I thought about that several times, specifically for, I would say, classroom environment, classroom culture, and behavior management. Because honestly, I think that's what most people struggle with the most. You can learn probably anywhere. They have things online for free to learn, like, good teaching practice in terms of instructional practice. But, yeah, I would. It's something I thought about for a long time.
Would it be possible for us to put your information and they could email you and then you could... they could talk prices in the...
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I know we didn't do a Black History, but go ahead. My fault.
Do you want to do a Black History person?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead. Every episode, since it's Black History Month, we pick a person who we like to give them a shout out. So, who is your person, Chen? Stop looking at your bookshelf over there.
It's too late. It's too late. I already got it. I want to give a shout out to Chimamanda.
Love her.
Shout out to the old one woman who convinced me to be a feminist, but then I quickly dropped it. I could be an ally. I don't know if I could be. That's like,
You are a
that's like a
feminist.
white woman. That's like a white man saying I'm a civil rights leader.
No,
Like, no, you're not.
No. It's a
No, you're
mindset.
not.
It's a mindset.
No, you're not. You're not.
They're
civil
very
rights.
different.
But no, I
I'm sorry.
definitely have great books. One of my favorite books, Americana. She is dope.
She's literally my favorite
person.
author. Do I get to shout out somebody?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. Chimamanda is literally my favorite author.
You
Fun
can't
fact.
use her, though.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna use her.
Oh, okay.
You already
gotta pick
did.
your own.
You already did. Fun fact: I believe her husband actually works down here, like
Really?
downtown. Yeah, he's a physician somewhere in Baltimore.
Nice.
So
my auntie is best friends. Well, not best friends, but good friends with Chimamanda, and she came to my cousin's. My cousin's graduation.
I love Chimamanda so much. Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm sorry. I actually literally love her. She is my favorite author.
Are you about to start crying?
I think I might.
She's not here.
Do you have a phone number?
So I would like to shout out Dr. Mae Jemison. I believe she was the first Black woman in space.
What?
Which is how people know her. But did you also know that she was also a physician, a medical doctor?
What?
Yes, Mae Jemison. Yes, she sure was. She did that.
Okay.
Amazing Black woman.
All right.
Yes.
Well, since we going women, I'm going with Janet Jackson.
Without her, we wouldn't have YouTube.
I'll go with Janet Jackson.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, the person who started YouTube, they wanted to see a replay of something that happened at some point in time. That's all I'm going to say.
That is so nasty. I did not know that about y'all YouTube. Hey, we still the official podcast on YouTube?
Yes, we are.
Oh, Lord.
But hopefully y'all enjoyed this part 2, man. Go back and watch part 1 if you didn't. But y'all enjoy yourselves. Blessings.
Nah,